I want to talk about this stock market crash that we're in the middle of. I shouldn't laugh because when it crashes, the poor and the middle class are going to be the ones that suffer. And it is going to crash. And 2 days ago, Trump was on Twitter today saying today was the best rise in the stock market ever. And I retweeted it and just said what he didn't tell you was the day before they put $1.5 trillion into the system to make it do that. $1.5 trillion. I looked at it and I think free college was going to be something like 47 billion. And ending homelessness in the United States completely was going to be 20 billion. So that's 67 billion. You could pay for that and wipe out student debt and it not cost much more. 1.5 trillion is how much student debt. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Margaret, but every time somebody talks about, cancelling student debt or, I don't know, having a medical system, how are you going to pay for that is the question from the media. Nobody asked that question, did they, Margaret? Nobody.
No. Oh, no. And this is something that has been going on for a long time. The system is being held up with rubber bands and glue or, something crazy. They have been pouring money.
No. What it's being held up by, Margaret, is ignorance and wishful thinking. That's what it's being held up by.
And it's, first of all, the 2008 crisis never ended. No. And it's been, it's like the little Dutch boy with his finger in the dike and holes appearing. And that's been happening ever since 2008. And this injecting these trillions of dollars to prop up a system that's falling apart, it is going to be a disaster. It's going to be like the Great Depression all over. And that's another reason I think they're willing to start a hot war. And people don't know anything about that. But it's all very, very, very frightening to me.
Yeah, we're in the middle of a pandemic. They've just put 1.5 trillion into the stock market because, they can't let the stock market crash. Can't let it crash. Meanwhile, Trump has said during this period he'll forgive interest on student loans. Not the student loans that they could have paid off with this 1.5 trillion and forgave, just the interest. So you've still got to pay your student loans, but you don't have to pay the interest for the next few months. That's what they've said. That 1.5 trillion, so just for the people watching this, 1.5 trillion, that's 1,500 million suitcases, all with $1 million in. Okay? 1.5 million suitcases, all with $1 million in. That's how much 1.5 trillion is. You could give every man, woman and child $4,250 in America, something like that, for that money. Now, at this time when people are going to be at home, self-isolating, and they can't make money and they can't make ends meet and they can't buy food, $4,250 would go a hell of a long way over these next few months. Isn't it interesting that if I was to suggest that on Fox, MSNBC or CNN, they would look at me like my head had just exploded, yet they put it into the stock market like that. There was no decision. There was nobody saying, can we afford this? There was nobody saying, can we have a vote? Can we do a bill through Congress? Nothing. They just printed it and put it in because the stock market is more important than people's lives. That's what it seems to me.
Well, they don't care about our lives.
No.
It's a system they want to prop up. And they prop it up with censorship, with lies, by destroying people politically, by making sure we can't be heard, because they want people to think if we don't do this, if they say anything about it at all, then the system collapses, then you get a depression, which we're going to get anyway. They cannot, it's not sustainable. This cannot continue. And meanwhile,
they can't continue to just print money, can they? They can't continue to do this. I mean, they have been doing it for 10 days. I think they've been putting it into the repo markets, you call it in America. The Fed has been, and this is for bank-to-bank lending. This is and basically what a repo market is for those. I'm going to try and explain this, Margaret. Okay. I don't know whether I'm right. Maybe if you know more, you can. A repo market, that basically, if you imagine a bank like at the close of business. Sometimes at the close of business, they need a loan because they're not getting to get anything coming in until the next day. It's like they get a loan from this repo market. It's like a fund that's kept, and it's at a stupid rate, like 0.001%, because they only need the loan for like 12 hours. Well, in November, banks started going to this fund, trying to get a loan overnight, and there was no money there. So the Fed was having to stick billions in almost every day. They were putting 50 billion in, 10 billion a day, because there's so many leaks in the economic system. You pour it in at the top and it just goes straight into the rich person's pockets. There's a guy called Mark Blythe. I don't know whether you're aware of him, and he talks about how we bailed out the bankers in the 2008 financial crash, and he says basically what it is, it's the equivalent of needing to fill up your kettle with water. And instead of going over and to the sink and turning the tap on and putting it in the people's pockets and bailing the people out, because that's who needs it, because they'll spend it in the economy and that's what will grow the economy. Instead of doing that and filling up the kettle that way, what you've decided to do is to get a fireman's high pressure hose, jam it through the letterbox, turn it on full, and hope that somehow some will end up in the kitchen in that kettle where it's needed to be. And of course it doesn't. What happens is, the derivatives markets and all these other markets swallow it up, and it all ends up going to the bankers in bonuses, and none of us see any of the benefit of it. They can't just keep doing this. Something's going to have to break.